Hi, my name is Courtney. I grew up in a wonderful Christian home. I never doubted the existence of the Lord. Really, like He was as real to me as the trees or the wind or anything around me. I knew that He was real. And when I was 5 years old, I gave my life to Christ and I became a Christian. But it wasn't until I was much older that I really understood the significance of that because as a child, I knew every answer. I followed every rule, but it didn't mean anything, and I didn't understand that until God showed me in lots of ways. But everything seemed fine in my life, and I was happy, and I was just a kid, and I had great friends and a wonderful family, and I was so content. And one day, when in the sixth grade, I guess I was like 12 or 13 years old, um, I came home from school, and my legs just like my nerves and my legs just shot down my body, and it was in so much pain, and I fell to the ground and freaked my family out. But I had so much pain in my body, and from my hips to the bottom of my toes and both of my legs, I felt like I was on fire, and it was so much pain, and I couldn't walk, and I didn't know what was going on. I just wanted so badly to escape my body and the pain, but I didn't know how. And we saw countless doctors because it just didn't go away. It wasn't constant, but it would come and go every few weeks, and it was just constantly living in fear of when it was going to come again. And when I was 14, 2 years after I first had my first episode, I was diagnosed with reflex sympathetic dystrophy, which is just a nerve condition where my brain tells my body that it's hurt when nothing is really wrong. And there's no cure for it right now, but you can just treat the pain. And so that's what I have to do. I stay on medicines and just pray that something doesn't happen. But when I was first diagnosed, it was really hard because it's hard to hear as a 14-year-old that the only thing wrong with you is a brain condition and nothing is really wrong, because I of course took that as, wow, I'm doing this to myself, almost like I have control over this, nothing's actually wrong with me. And that was hard. And at the same time, my family moved away from the place that I'd grown up in, and I left some wonderful friends and a life that I loved and went to a new place. And with, you know, this RSD, I sunk into a serious depression, and I was really upset. And there were times when I thought about taking my life, but Jesus was always there. In the darkest moments, He was there. And there were times that I just remember not. I don't know how I got out of the situations I put myself in, because He had a guard over my life, and I'm so thankful for that. Um, I continued in this secret depression that I tried to hide from everyone for years. And things got better, and I adjusted to the town I was in, and I ended up loving it. But I still just held this sadness deep in my heart that I had no idea how to get rid of. One day I was at camp. I guess I was a sophomore. I was between my freshman and sophomore year. Um, I My camp counselor it was a camp in, I think, East Texas, but they were doing cardboard testimonies, and my counselor held up her cardboard testimony, and on one side it said broken, depressed, and each person went around, and then when her turn came back around, she turned her cardboard testimony over, and on the other side it said, I am freed from the lies of Satan, and I am found in Jesus. And I just lost it, and I just started crying, and all the people around me were like, what's going on? Why is she crying? And all of this deep, dark, secret life that I'd hidden inside for so long just was poured out before the Lord. And in that moment, I understood that I don't need any of this stuff. Like, I don't need friends. I don't need the ability to walk. I don't need, a life without pain. I just need Jesus, because this depression, like, it's controlling my life, and it's telling me a lie that is not true. And so I went on from that, and things were a lot better, and I was like, "Wait, God, great, like, we're getting through," and my relationship with Him continued to grow. But a couple years later, I returned to the same camp, and I hadn't had an issue with my RSD. Sorry. And in months, and the ones that I had in that time were not bad at all. They were just like little episodes that went away on their own, never like super bad. I usually rate it on a scale of 1 to 10, and um, so I mean they were like 2s and 3s, like to where I would just have to take a day off and stay in bed, but were never like that horrible. So we went back to the camp, and we one day went up on the trail to something called the windmill, and it's like we were outside all day, and I probably did some things I shouldn't have done, like for like with my legs, did some activities I should have probably stepped out of, but oh well. So we're walking up this hill, and it's about a mile hike, like almost straight uphill, and we get to the top, and it's like so hot. It's Texas, and it's like 110 degrees or something, and we get to the top of the hill, and there's this well that's just ice cold water, and everybody's like, "You're the world!" And everyone goes and lines around the top and just jumps in, and everyone's so happy and like cooling off. And as soon as I jumped into the water, the freezing water compared to the heat, like how warm I had been, shocked my whole body and triggered my RSD, and it was so excruciatingly painful. It's the worst pain that I've ever been in my entire life. It was like a 9 or a 9.5, I guess, on that little scale, but I pulled myself out, like, because I just out of the shock, I guess it was the adrenaline, and I just kind of sat on the side and didn't say anything, because I just didn't even know what was going on, and I just sat there for a couple minutes, and people started to come ask me what was wrong, and some of my friends and, leaders who knew what was, like, my problems, like, started, they got my medication, and they started, like, trying to do things to help, but I needed to get away from the water, and they were trying to take me to the nurse. And thankfully that day my youth pastor had driven up, he'd brought his kids up that day, so the car was up there, but I couldn't get from like where the pool was to where the car was. There were a bunch of like rocks and gravel, and I couldn't even, like, it was so painful for me to sit, let alone stand or walk. And but it's really painful to be picked up as well, and so I just didn't know how I was going to get from to the car. And I had 2 of my friends, like my arms around 2 of my friends, and where I'm trying to like barely walk, and it was really difficult, and I was crying, and everybody was kind of freaking out. But one of my friends, my friend Holmes, was walking alongside me, and he turned to me, and before I could say anything, he said, "Courtney, this is going to be so painful, and it's going to be so hard, but the only way for me to get you from here to there is to pick you up and carry you, and you have to trust me, because it's the only way, and know that I love you and I will keep you safe, but this is the only way." And before I could say anything, he picked me up and carried me over to the car, and it was like, if I thought that I was in pain before, that was the worst pain I've ever been in my life. And I just cried and cried, and I was scratching his neck, but I was also holding on to him so tightly. Like, I was fighting him and holding on to him at the same time. And he set me down in the car, and I just wept, and I just held on to him, and I cried, and he comforted me, and I was taken to the nurse, and I laid there, and they were going to call the helicopters, like the medevac or whatever. And I asked them, I don't know what caused me to, but I asked them not to, and I asked them just to wait. And I think I fell asleep because of the pain. I don't really remember what happened, but I do know that my friends were praying for me and lifting me up to the Lord, and praying for my healing. And that night I went to sleep, and I woke up, and I was completely fine, like 100%. I think I went rock climbing that day, actually. And as bad as that episode of RSD was, it should have easily been a 6-month recovery, easy. And I was just fine like that. And Jesus healed me. And for people who say that God isn't in the business of doing miracles anymore, like, they're completely wrong, because that was a miracle. I experienced it, going from so much pain that I wanted to just escape everything, to being free from all of it. And the next night, or I guess the night after, when I was walking again, we had worship at the camp, and I had my friends, my counselor had gotten my friends to come around me, and they just were praying over me. And I was in that moment, I was just really overwhelmed by like the people that God had placed in my life and the love that I felt for them, and I felt really loved. And I was just really overwhelmed by that. And a couple minutes later, we went over to worship. We were worshiping together, and we were singing "How He Loves Us" by John Mark McMillan. And I was just worshiping the Lord, and I was lost in worship, and all of a sudden I just heard this voice that it wasn't audible, but it was just, it might as well have been. It was so strong in my heart, and all it said was, "And how much more I love you." And I just broke down, and I just knew that like Jesus is everything for a reason. And if I had to go through every single thing I've gone through in the past, I don't know, 8 years, I'm still going through, just so that He can remind me that He loves me, it is so worth it. And so that He can show me an example of Him in my friend Holmes, when Holmes has to pick me up and say, the only way for me to get you from this painful place here is to carry you, and it's going to be hard and it's going to hurt, but you have to trust me because I will take care of you, and it is the only way. And that is such a picture of Jesus and what He does. And sometimes He has to carry us, and it's hard, and we fight and we scratch, but at the same time we hold on to Him with everything that we've got. And I don't know why God does the things that He does, but I do know that He is good and that He loves me, and everything that He has done in the history of the world has been to get closer to us and to me and to you. And that is something that I just can't fathom and understand. And I, after that incident, I'm not gonna lie, I thought, okay, God, great, like, you taught me what you wanted to through the RSD thing, we're fine. But like, it didn't go away. And even this last semester, I had a horrible random episode, and I had to withdraw a semester from school, and I'm still having issues. Last week I fell, and it's not over. But you know what, like, God's story with me isn't over, and He is going to continue to teach me and grow me in the way that He sees fit, because I belong to Him, and I gave my life to Him, and I willingly will go wherever He leads me. And it took me a long time to understand that God had to take everything away from me, my friends and my joy and my ability to walk, and relationships and comfort zones. He took it all. He stripped me bare for me to understand that He was all that I needed, and I didn't need anything else. He is sufficient, and He is enough. Jesus Christ is enough. And that is what He's taught me over the past couple years. And I pray that He continues to teach me, through the pain and the hardship. Like, I know that He is Lord, and He loves me, and I can't wait to escape this body, but while I'm here, and I'm going to be all here, because all the things that He's taught me, I would do it again. I count it all as lost for the sake of following Christ, like Paul says. And so I'm just thankful for Him, and I love Him. And so, yeah, I'm Courtney, and that's my story.